All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Franz from Skyline, and we power the NCL Games. Today is NCL 101, and we're here to tell you everything that you need to know about NCL. So with me today, I've got a few members from our Players Committee. For those of you who are not aware of the Players Committee, they're a group of NCL alumni who work to support the NCL community. So they're here to be a great resource for you all, help guide you all. And you might see them on our live streams like we have today, and as well as in the Discord. And they also sometimes put out some blog posts on the Trove, which you might be familiar with from the NCL gym. So the format for today is that I'm just going to do a quick overview about with some slides with everything you need to know. But really the main benefit that you're all going to get is from the Q&A. So as I go through this today, leave any of the questions that you might have in the chat. And once we get through the slides, I'm going to kick it over to the Players Committee here to answer some of your questions and see if they can give you some helpful insight. So with that kind of out of the way here, I'll do a quick introduction here. We've got Garrett, Gio, and Paul with us today. Do you all want to say hi?
Sure, I can get us started. Hi, everyone. We're here with the Players Committee. We're going to be answering any questions, so please put them in the chat. We're going to be reading through them. Yeah, Garrett, Paul.
Yeah, hi everybody. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Paul. You didn't just get out of bed, did you?
No, I did not. I just got off of work.
Perfect. All right. All right. Well, let's quickly just go over the spring season schedule. So if you all are registered for NCL right now, you can go straight into the gym. The gym has a set of practice challenges and guides to help you just prepare for the competition. That's probably the best way to be prepared for the spring season. We actually recently added in additional guides and challenges into the gym this year. So if you are a returning player, there's some new challenges in there for you. So go try them out. At the end of March, so still almost a month away, we'll have our practice game. That's a week-long event where you will have some challenges to work through. These are past NCL challenges, but you won't have the guys. However, you can collaborate with your friends and your classmates. And so it's a good way to kind of get used to the competitive environment where you don't have kind of the solutions right in front of you, but you still can get assistance from your friends. And then the individual game, April 5th through 7th, that's a weekend-long event. That's an individual competition, as the name might suggest. And then we have the team game that follows afterwards, April 19th through the 21st. So for the individual and team games, both of these are going to be completely new challenges. You are expected in the individual game to work by yourselves. In the team game, you can work with up to 7 people on your team. And you don't have to do both of them. You can choose if you want to do one or the other. We recommend both. Especially the team game is a fun thing to do with friends. But what's really important is that participation in the individual game will give you an individual game scouting report, which will highlight all of the skills, the different tasks that you demonstrated and performed within the competition. And that's going to be very helpful for you as you apply for jobs or as you are kind of like planning what skills you want to develop so that you will be prepared for a job. You will get a similar thing for the team game. However, that is for the entire team. So if you want something like specific to your abilities, the individual game is going to be what gets you that. All right, so we have the 9 topics within NCL: open source intelligence, cryptography, password cracking, log analysis, scanning, enumeration exploitation, network traffic analysis, forensics, and web application security. If you all are wondering what types of challenges are covered in these, Gym's a great resource to kind of see what that's like. If you have questions about kind of like what tools to use or what to expect beyond the gym, I think those would be good questions to ask in the chat. And hopefully the Players Committee can help you all out with that. This is a copy of the scouting report that I mentioned. What's really cool about it is that it gives you the itemized list of the different skills that you performed. And it also has a list of jobs that are relevant to those skills. So when you go to apply for an internship or you go to apply for a job and you're going to get the question during the interview. What do you know about being a SOC analyst? Having this as a reference for yourself to know that, oh, actually, I do have experience doing some of this work. You might not have job experience, but you have the technical experience, and you can talk about that and tell that story. And that's really going to be what will help kind of set you apart and impress the interviewer. And then some resources to help you all prepare. The gym that I mentioned, webinars just like this one that we do on StreamYard, and they're also on YouTube. And then the Trove, which is also available within the gym. And if you need links to these things, you can go to the NCL website for links to that. There's a section there for students, and then there's a resources section there for the students. And some final tips to give you as a beginner before we go into the questions is, number one, I would recommend setting your own personal goals. I think a lot of like people who are coming in as a beginner, like it can be intimidating being in a competition and kind of maybe stressing out that, hey, I'm not number one on the leaderboard. And it's okay. Everyone comes in as a beginner. It's a good idea to set your own personal goals so that you have your sense of accomplishment regardless of what everyone else is doing. There's nothing wrong with being a beginner. Everyone has to start somewhere. And so don't worry on, the fact that there are people who are a little bit more advanced than you. Set your own personal goals and define your own success. I'd also recommend focus on scoring points. The way that the ranking works is that whoever has the most points has the best rank. If there's a tie on points, then it's accuracy as a tiebreaker. And then if there's a tie on accuracy, then it's whoever completed first. And for the most part, it's like, unless you're at the very, very like high competitive levels, it's way more important to just get the points and to stress on the accuracy. Because if you waste a lot of time being stressed on like, hey, do I have this exactly right? That's time that you could be using solving other challenges. And so it's oftentimes, better, instead of getting stuck, to just make some educated guesses. You have multiple attempts per question, and then just get the points and move on and focus on solving additional challenges. I'd also recommend taking some good notes, because at the end of the day, the whole benefit that you're getting is really the learning that you're going to get from this experience. The score, that's fleeting, right? Like the score after you kind of graduate, it's not going to matter. Same thing with your grades in school. Like, grades in school don't matter once you get your first job. It's actually like learning that is going to be really helpful for you long term. And so taking some notes to help you kind of reflect after the games is super helpful. And the last recommendation is that sometimes people get a little bit intense about the games, especially during the weekend. So don't forget to take breaks. We're all human. We all need sleep and food and a nice shower. So make sure you get the rest that you need, because oftentimes just like a small break will go a long way to helping you get unstuck and actually being able to solve something that has been stumping you for a while. So hopefully you all found that helpful. I'm going to start going through and curating a list of questions from the chat so we can start answering them on screen. But while I'm doing that, anyone from the Players Committee, do you all have additional tips and recommendations that you have for people doing NCL?
Sleep.
All right, sleep.
One more. No, that's perfect. I think, well, to add on that, I would also recommend probably going to through the gym and finding one area that you really like, because the competition is probably going to be very similar to it. So finding what you're good at, especially if this is the first time you're doing it. And then, yeah, just focusing on that section and trying to play around. Also, I know Paul also mentioned in the chat to play around with the other, the other categories that we also have. So that's also very helpful, just so you can get, a taste of it. But yeah.
Garrett, anything you'd recommend?
Something that you didn't mention that we do is after each of the competitions, there's a recap where we go over the methodologies for each of the questions or challenges, and we don't give the answers, but the goal is more to help you go through them afterwards. So if you're doing it with a club NCL, or if you're just doing it on your own, going through that recap of questions you might have struggled with, maybe didn't get the answer to, but maybe someone else in your club or student organization, uh, or you can go to the channel in the Discord where we go over the methodologies for each of the challenges is really helpful, because just because you didn't get the challenge right at the time, doesn't mean there isn't anything to be learned from it. Oftentimes, those are the places that you'll end up learning the most, because if you figured out the challenge on your own, you might have learned some, but the biggest places to learn are places that you didn't know about already. And so those are those challenges that you didn't get. So recapping the competitions after they're over is very helpful.
And I also posted in the chat the invite link to the Discord. So Garrett was mentioning that debrief that happens on Discord. So if you haven't already joined it, go ahead and use that link. And it's immediately after the game's over. So we have it queued up. It's like the floodgates open as soon as the game ends. The clock goes to 0. There's discussions there immediately. And I also love looking at that Discord to see all the different ways other people have solved the challenges. So even if you had a solution, it might still be useful to go and see how other people might have solved it. And maybe you can learn something from that as well. All right, so you all should keep your questions coming in. And I'm going to put up a couple on the screen and see if we can answer some of them. If you have any questions about kind of like advice or like how do you approach a topic, how do you learn, please ask those so we can make the best use of the players committee here. I see a lot of like technical questions I'm happy to answer, but the tips and the strategies are more useful for the players committee to answer. So I'll go through a couple of these. Faith has asked, are we permitted to refer back to the notes during the individual game? Yes. So, for the games, you can use any online resources that are freely available. If you have your own notes, that's fair game. Just during the individual game, you're not allowed to collaborate with other people. So if you and a friend even like share notes before the individual game, so maybe you took some notes from the practice game or the gym and you share those with each other, that's fair game. You just can't share notes with each other during the individual game. So there's a lot of flexibility there. You should take advantage of all the resources that you have available, with the caveat that for the individual game, you do need to do it by yourself. So if you're using resources, you can't actively be asking someone for help. So no asking your friend how to solve something, what tool they used, no posting online, asking other people on the internet what to do. But everything else, that's just a resource that you can access passively. That's fair game. All right, what other questions? So there's a question from Sophia on how do we go to the gym. I'm going to spin this into a two-parter. So I guess the first question is, how do we go to the gym? When you complete your NCL registration, if you go to your dashboard, you should see it listed there. Or if you go back to the registration portal, there should be a link from your dashboard to take you to the gym. And the second part of this question I wanted to add was, for a beginner going through the gym for the first time, how would you recommend them go about doing that? Because I know there's a lot of stuff in there. It might be overwhelming. How have you all kind of gone through the gym, and what have you been able to find that was helpful?
So yeah, I guess I can take this. Doing it, if you have other people to do it with, first of all, it's always better, to work with someone else in a collaborative sense whenever you can collaborate. So this sort of applies to the practice game as well. But if you have a club or student organization that you do NCL with, going through those gym questions together, helps everybody learn. And so that's definitely a great way to go about it if you do have other people that you're doing the competition with. But just approaching the gym as a solo activity, I would say just start wherever is most interesting to you. because it's going to be a lot easier to participate if you're, if it's fun, right? And it should be fun, hopefully for everybody. So, just pick something that looks interesting. For me, when I first did NCL, that was password cracking. So I would always, in each competition, I would jump straight into that because that was the most fun thing for me. But once you sort of get that first thing that you're really into, it motivates you more, at least personally, to go out and participate in some of the other things that you maybe didn't think about right away. And you can go in and be like, oh, what's this? I enjoy doing this other part of the competition. So let's venture out and see what else is out there. But yeah, I don't just pick something that looks fun to you and start with that is my suggestion.
Make sure you view the walkthroughs for gym challenges, even gym challenges that you might have already solved. A notable aspect of cybersecurity is that there's often no single correct way to go about solving a problem. Many of these activities are simulating hacking exercises. And part of hacking is a process of discovery, and there's no single correct way to solve a problem. There's no single correct tool. So you may find that by viewing the walkthrough, you discover new tools or techniques that you have never heard of before. I know on the player committee, there's often a variety of tools that are used to solve the same challenge. Different people have different preferences. That can be a little scary at first in that there's no real direction when solving these challenges. There isn't a clear list of instructions on how to complete any portion of the competition. But over time, you'll figure out which tools work best for you and how to learn new tools on the fly during the competition.
Yep. And I think adding on that, I think it's very important to, I guess, going back to a point that Franz made of taking notes. You're going to see a lot of tools that you've probably not used before. So it is important to take notes on how maybe you're approaching it. But again, there's no right way of using every single tool. So just take as many notes as you can. Try to make something you can understand, so then later you can refer to it. And the good thing about each one of the categories, I guess, is that it starts very easy. So even if you don't know how to do password cracking or how to do, I don't know, like enumeration and exploitation, it's going to start very, very easy, I guess. And then it gets more challenging. So that's the fun part about these. So you don't have to worry about knowing all of the things left to right, because you're going to learn there.
And there's a couple questions here that I could probably rapid fire real quick. So Howard is asking, does using the walkthrough in the gym hurt your overall score? It does not. So the walkthroughs are kind of hidden and require a click to open just because people don't want spoilers. So there's no penalty for using the walkthrough. I have a question here. Does anyone know how to join a team? So that is the link there to register for the team. To get set up with the team, you first have to complete your individual registration. Once you do that, when you go to the registration page, there should be a tab for team setup. And then you can either create a team yourself, or you need to get an invite link from someone to join their team. So you can make the decision if you want to be the one to create it. Go ahead and put in the name for your team. Or if you have a friend who's going to invite you to their team, ask them for that link, and then you can join using that link. We have a question about the write-up policy. So the write-up policy is that for everything that we're doing within NCL, because we do reuse the challenges for like the practice game, we don't allow kind of the answers to be shared out in public, because we want to make sure that like the next round of players who come in, they can't just get the answers right away. We actually have that experience of being able to solve it with each other. So the write-up policy is that you can do write-ups for your own personal use, as long as you don't publish it publicly. So if you want to share write-ups within your school's club, as long as it's private within your club, that's okay. If you are applying for a job and you want to give them a writing sample, you can send it to them. That's okay. We just ask that you don't make it public so that we maintain kind of the competitive, like the fun experience for other players who join in subsequent years. And that's specific to the practice game. The individual and team game, every single season, there's completely new challenges. So you're not spoiling those, but we want to make sure the practice game is still a unique experience for people. And a couple of questions here in terms of what VM do you suggest using and any resources for suggested tools? So I will pass that off to you all. If we could probably take both of those questions at once.
I want to hear what the other player committee members use, because I am an older player and I want to hear what other people are using.
I'm scared. So when I participated in the NCL, I had a license for VMware through my school. So that was good because I was able to spin up there my Kali Linux and any other virtual machines. So that was very helpful. As far as tools, I guess Kali has the majority of the tools that you're going to need. A lot of command prompt. But yeah, that was my approach, I guess. I didn't go too deep. But you don't really need to go too deep, I think. I don't know. What about you, Garrett?
Yeah, I agree with that. My preferred VM platform is definitely VMware. And then Kali was, my go-to. If you're a real stickler and don't want to, most of the tools that you will want to use, you can make work on Windows. You can make Ghidra work on Windows and Hashcat and all that stuff. But I would suggest having a VM and Kali preferably, so you don't have to install everything. But you can install those tools on whatever flavor of Linux you would like. Specifically tools, a lot of the crypto stuff and whatnot. I'm sure a lot of people know about CyberChef. CyberChef will get so many challenges done for you. It's unbelievable. For password cracking, my preference is Hashcat over John, just because it's faster if you have a GPU. For reverse engineering, a lot of people like to use Radare. That's a good tool. Ghidra is also really nice. Other tools off the top of my head. Let's see. There's a tool called Stego Toolkit for a lot of the steganography questions. It's a little annoying to set up, but once you get it set up, it's really good. In terms of stuff for Hashcat, there's a really great Git repo out there. It's called SecLists that has a bunch of word lists, stuff like that you'll need for your password cracking adventures. But that's the stuff I can come up with just off the top of my head. Yeah.
I'm trying to post some links in the chat for the things that you mentioned. So you also mentioned, I think someone was asking for Radare 2. I'll post that in the chat as well. Cool. So going through some additional questions here. I have a question on what is the AI policy during the challenges. So this is an interesting and fun one that we've been having to tackle with recently. So I'll kind of like state the current policy and then also kind of like this is actually an open discussion, and maybe this is something we could talk about with the players committee here on people's thoughts. But kind of the current policy right now is that we do not allow the use of AI during the competition. And then, this is the part for discussion. So the rationale behind that decision at the moment is that we've seen a lot of times that people will use AI kind of improperly in the learning process. So kind of seeing AI as effectively like a calculator. And if you're learning math, if you're allowed to use the calculator before you understand how it works, then you don't really learn properly, versus like actually having learned how to do the math and then you get to use the calculator. So this is like a big challenge that we've been facing because there's such a huge range of skills of people who participate in NCL, and also even at like a beginner versus an advanced skill level, there's when it comes to learning something new, there's still responsible and irresponsible ways of using AI. Because if you're using AI and you find an NCL challenge, and what you're doing is you're just copying and pasting the NCL challenge into ChatGPT and asking ChatGPT, hey, go and solve this for me, you're not really learning. Like that's not really helpful for the process, which is why we have that policy. But at the same time, it can be super helpful in the learning process if you are basically saying, hey, I have this snippet of code trying to solve a challenge, or like I'm not sure what command line arguments I need to be running, and then you might ask an AI for assistance there. That might be a way that it's still helping you and you're still learning. But it's so hard to figure out like how do we make sure that people are actually going about it the right way, because we have no control over like how people are actually using AI. So this is like an open discussion that we've been having internally, and I would love to get like everyone else's thoughts both in the chat and from the players committee here. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of thoughts, so I want to know like how do you all feel about that policy? Like agree, disagree? Like what are your thoughts on it?
I have a hot take on this.
All right, I'm ready for it.
LLMs and generative AI in general are increasingly useful tools, but it's going to take a while for society to catch up with them, and the education process as well. So at least the friends who I have who are teachers or professors have already noticed a significant increase in the use of AI in ways that are considered academic integrity violations. But for the purposes of cybersecurity, really, to an extent, we're trying to encourage people to use tools in new creative ways to their advantage. That's part of the progressive discovery of hacking and then learning how to defend against hacking. Now, a problem does arise in a cybersecurity competition like NCL, in that we cater toward a variety of skill levels, which means there are a lot of challenges that AI probably could solve or help solve. It would not really be fair to plug all of those questions into AI, get the results, and then get the points, especially since it's not really going to help you on the more difficult challenges. And as you get into the team games, you're going to be up against a wall. I know the player committee, for fun, has tried plugging in various challenges to ChatGPT and has not had much luck solving challenges. We can get some of the really basic OSINT challenges, or what programming language is this? But actually going about solving the challenge when it's a more difficult challenge, you can't really use ChatGPT for that. And that's also been an issue in my workplace. We would love to be able to use ChatGPT for this sort of thing, and we have certainly tried, but we have not really found it to be useful in the real world for this particular purpose. So to that end, I would say I'm personally not against people using it in the competition. I think that's hard to enforce. But if you're trying to get something out of the competition, plugging everything into ChatGPT, you're not really benefiting from the competition, and you're certainly not going to place well.
Yeah, and I think I share a very similar opinion on this, because I guess like the idea behind, hey, AI is not allowed, is less about competitive integrity and more about like what it how does our stance on this help people the most in terms of their ability to learn. And I would say that like if you were to use ChatGPT, it could probably help you with some of the easier challenges, like you mentioned, but not some of the harder challenges. But then basically what happens is like the floor, like at the beginner level, just increases, but it doesn't necessarily help you go from beginner, I don't really know how to solve all these hard challenges, to suddenly being able to solve those hard challenges. Now you can solve the easy challenges, but now you don't know how those how to actually solve them. You just are able to get the points. So it's not as if you're kicking someone from the top of the leaderboard, and like, but you're doing yourself a disservice because now you're not learning that. And so I actually think that like there's like a deeper component to this, which is I think we might need to do a little bit more than just having a policy on like you are or not allowed to use AI. And like we have been having discussions internally in terms of like what type of education do we need to put out there to like help students learn how to use AI in a useful way. Because I can guarantee you that like if the way that you're using AI is copy and paste the problem and hope that you get the solution, that might help you get a place on the leaderboard in NCL. But like when you go to job, if you just take whatever the heck your boss tells you to do and you put that into ChatGPT, then yeah, then you're fully replaceable. And I think there's a whole argument about like career in AI prompting, but like that's way beyond like what we're trying to do here within NCL. But Gio, Garrett, do you all have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think also not getting too far, like after before getting a job, going through the interview process. I feel like going through the NCL is a learning process. And when you get an interview, you're gonna have the opportunity to talk about the things that you've done in the competition. So if you just go to the interview and you tell them like, yeah, I use ChatGPT or something, I mean, how are you going to leverage that? So it doesn't really make much sense. But yeah, I would definitely use this as a learning experience. So don't focus too much on being, I guess, in the leaderboard or being the best or getting the highest score, but actually learning what you're doing, I think. I don't know. What do you think, Garrett?
I pretty much have the same opinion as everyone else here, I suppose. In that using ChatGPT, sort of like what Paul said, is it might get you some of the answers on some easy stuff. Maybe some of the easy OSINT questions, some of the easy exploitation and enumeration, maybe some of the cryptography ones. But you're not going to learn those if you do that, and you don't go out of your way to learn how it works. Then when you get to harder questions, you're not going to have that base level of knowledge that you sort of get when you do those easy questions. So even if they might seem easy at the time, there's something you're getting from them. And so just by bypassing that step, I think it really hurts your ability to understand what's going on. And so yeah, while I don't have a problem with people using it personally, I think it hinders their learning ability and is not going to help you get that many points in the end. So it's not really worth it to me.
I do want to clarify that I am very much in favor of AI as a tool in general. and it can be very useful for research or throwing questions at it. And I personally use it every day while programming. I use it to generate all sorts of code that boilerplate code, generates it quickly. It's great. That being said, I have not had much luck using it for more difficult NCL challenges, and not for lack of trying.
And I also will say that like the AI policy is something that we're like actively, reconsidering all the time. This is probably like the second season that we've like actively had to have discussions. And for everyone's context as well, like when we have discussions with the NCL coaches, like this is still a hot button topic because they're still trying to figure out like what's the AI policy in schools and in classrooms. And it's the exact same challenges that they have in the classroom is what we have with the competition. I think for us that like there is a desire to be adapting to what is going on in the industry in terms of like allowing AI usage because it is going to be such a vital tool. The question is, before we go and make the policy, yes, we allow AI usage, like how do we make sure that like in the gym or in some of the onboarding as you get involved in NCL, like how can we like really help students understand how like AI affects the learning process in a way that's going to set them up for success. At the moment, the current solutions that we have remind me of the DARE program. Like we're trying to scare people straight of like, oh, like you got to be careful with AI. You might not learn. And so I'm like, yeah, I don't know like how much people are actually going to listen to that. Like, I truly don't know. So
Yeah.
I'm very much open to different ideas because I'm just skeptical of that. And like, that's the one thing that's just like, we need to actually be confident that we're actually setting students up for success. And we're not just saying, yeah, you can use AI and then we look the other way and then no one learns anything. And then we're not fulfilling the purpose that we're here for.
Ultimately, it's not that different from using a search engine. We encourage you to search for resources during the competition and do research, and you're probably going to have to learn things on the fly. That's part of the point. But people have a lot of experience using search engines at this point for research. For the most part, people understand the caveats. Less so with AI. Don't just plug the question in and then copy the answer into the answer box. You're going to lose points that way.
All right, I feel like we should probably go back to some of the questions from the chat. I feel like we've hit our AI discussion quota for the time being.
I do want to see prompt injection challenges in the near future, though.
We had separately from NCL, we had a customer request to make a CTF challenge using AI. And then I said, what does that mean? Like, what does that actually look like? Very interesting. There's some ideas in terms of like poisoning the data set. So like, can you insert data to confuse the AI as a potential, because also we have to make it cyber related. So that was like one possibility, but the big challenge that we have is that AI is not perfect. So how do we automatically score what you're doing if inherently there's no necessarily discrete answer that is like deterministic? So it's a little challenging.
For all of you out there who are going into careers in cybersecurity, this will be a big part of your career, is figuring out the security bounds of AI, the security implications of AI. What do vulnerabilities look like?
Yeah. All right. Well, in the chat, we've got a question. I've been able to complete all the hard challenges in the gym with 92% accuracy. Will the challenges increase in difficulty during the individual and team games? So what do you all think?
Yeah. Sometimes more, some seasons more than others, but they definitely get harder I would say that the practice game will be about an accurate representation of the individual game. and that the team game from there will certainly get harder. Not to be like that. That sort of sounds scary, where it's like, oh, it's gonna be this insurmountable task. But they definitely do get more challenging, just because you have more people in the team game, and so they should be a little more challenging. But yeah, they will from the gymnasium at least.
Paul, Gio, any other thoughts?
The gym is relatively easy compared to the competitions usually. The gym is usually the easiest, then practice, and then individuals usually a significant step up, and then team gets to the point where usually most seasons you are going to have a hard time completing it as an individual. You are going to want a team. Even if you are like the top ranking player, you're going to have a hard time completing the team game on your own.
I can add to that in terms of like the design philosophy behind it. So for like within the gym, you're getting the written guides. So I think like just naturally there's an inherent like feeling that the one that you're doing that doesn't have the guides is going to be harder. But also it is a competition. So we can't give you a one-to-one from the gym to the competition, because then there wouldn't be much competition. Like you would know exactly how to do everything. So the way that it typically works is that the gym is meant to help you be in a good position to solve a lot of the like easy challenges within the competition. And then we expect that for the medium level questions within the individual team game, those are things where you might be filling in some of the gaps with your own learning, either through your classes or through whatever else you might be doing on the side. So NCL, we're giving you the different challenges to practice. It's not a substitution for learning in the classroom or like other learning that you should be doing. And so that's where we're seeing like a lot of the medium level content coming in. And then the hard level content, our philosophy for that is that that should be something where you really have to use your critical thinking. And so it's typically involving something that you're not going to see on a regular basis. So an example I use all the time is we had a network traffic analysis question in the past, which is a hard level question where you're looking at 4G data, like text messages being sent over a 4G network. That's not something you're really learning that often unless you're going to like a very specialized class. Like I don't really know of any classes that teach that, but that is something where the protocols are publicly available online. It is something that you could go and you could look it up and you can learn it on the fly. And so that's what makes it hard, is that you actually have to use a lot of critical thinking, doing things on the fly, learning things on the fly to solve it. And so there's absolutely like no expectation that you would be able to solve hard level challenges using gym solely. Like the gym is really to set you up to get through the easy level. And then the medium, you're going to have to rely a little bit more on what you're learning outside of the NCL. And then hard is like, that's really like you take it and run with it. Like you have a lot of critical thinking skills. And that actually transitions well into the next question here, which is how beginner friendly is this? So what do you all think about that?
I will say that this is a competition that caters to a wide range of skill levels. If you are a beginner or even intermediate and you compare yourself to the higher ranking players, it's going to feel overwhelming. You should expect to go into the competition being unable to even approach many of the challenges, not sure where to start, especially if this is your first time doing it. Take notes, figure out what you have a hard time with, but also what intrigues you. Then you can go off and learn it for the next season and then repeat the process. This is not necessarily a tutorial, so you will encounter problems that you don't know how to solve.
I agree with all those opinions. And then I also just more to directly answer the question. From my point of view, I think that NCL is a great first competition to do. It was the first CTF that I did, and it provides a lot of room for growth. I did NCL, 8 times throughout college, and so it was a really good foundation for just like my learning process. So I agree, Paul, with what Paul said, where the first time you do it, there most likely will be a lot of stuff that you won't get. But at least for me, and hopefully for all of you, that'll just motivate you to learn about that, and then next season, or maybe the season after that, there's a challenge that implements a sort of a similar idea, and when you come back and you see that sort of challenge again, and even if you didn't get it right the first time, you went out and learned about how it works or how to do it. When you come back and you see that same challenge and you know how to do it, it's extremely satisfying, and it's a great way. It's like a great barometer, at least personally, for my learning throughout cybersecurity. So I would say it very much is beginner friendly, but it's not going to be a cakewalk either.
Yeah, and I can add some more there, but I would say if this is the first season you're participating in, I would take it as as a personal competition. So I wouldn't really expect to be higher up in the leaderboard or trying to, as Paul mentioned, be, I don't know, fighting the more seasoned players. But definitely, I really like what the Franz put on the slides about setting your own goals and expectations, because at the end, the competition is with yourself. You're really trying to learn and grow your skills, just so you have a better understanding also of the areas that you need more help with, or the areas that you want to focus on for the future. So definitely make some goals, milestones for this competition, and then go from there for the other seasons.
And now we have the reverse question. How does NCL play for someone or a team of seasoned / more advanced CTF players?
Oh, wow. Over there, I don't know. Just use all of the notes. You've got her. I don't know.
You can be very competitive. As, a competitive player myself, as you can see from the mad scientist hairdo, it is a lot of fun if you play competitively.
Absolutely. And I don't think that for the most part, unless we're talking very upper echelon, the NCL is gonna be too easy. If that's what this person's sort of asking, I think that it still plays like a very fun competition. No matter what your skill level, there will always be other people who are hopefully just as committed and just as good. And so, yeah, I think it would still be fun. It absolutely is still fun for people who have lots of experience. There are definitely teams in NCL who have a lot of experience. And that sort of ties back to what the others have mentioned, which is you shouldn't compare yourself to those people if you're starting new or something, because there are going to be people that come in that have done many CTFs, and have done this for a couple of years, and there's we even have a whole bracket for those people who are already professionals, and are coming back for advanced degrees and things like that, and so there will always be other really good people, and so for the new people, you shouldn't compare yourself to them because there's a lot to learn, and for the more advanced people, there will be other people of your skill level to make it fun.
What I will say from our end is that we see the more advanced teams getting very creative on how to make additional challenges for themselves, especially a lot of the repeat teams, where they will start finding ways to automate more of the challenges. they're like, all right, so there's definitely gonna be like a base encoding challenge. So I'm gonna have a script ready. And like we have people who are going in and they're like writing scripts to like pull all of the questions from the very beginning and like start solving them like right away. And so like they're making additional challenges for themselves. We're like, all right, let's automate the solving of the CTF challenges, at least for the easy challenges, and then like spend a lot more time focusing on the hard level challenges. So it's very interesting seeing that.
There was one team that had, from Hawaii, I believe, that had automated wordless generation for a particular type of challenge in password cracking in team games that I just could not compete with.
You could get very, very creative with it. I will say that like if you're a beginner and you're hearing this, please don't be like scared about it, because like at the end of the day, again, it's about your own goals and your own growth. But like you can be competitive with the people kind of at your skill level, right? And so if you're a beginner, your number one goal shouldn't be I want to be in the top 10%. Your number one goal should be like, hey, I want to solve half of the challenges in network traffic analysis or something like that. Or if you say placed in like at the 50 percentile mark, maybe you want to go to like the top third, like something like that. And so like there's a huge gradient of like levels of intensity here. But I think that for the most part, especially if you're a beginner, I think people really discount how far they can get and how good of a ranking they can get with just putting in the time. Like there's a lot of people who do NCL and like they will just like spend maybe 30 minutes, an hour, because they just like need to place somewhere on the leaderboard, because they had this as like an assignment for class, which works to your advantage if you're really trying to like, show off your skills and use this as a way to demonstrate to an employer that you have the skills. Like, the people who are not trying, like that works to your advantage. And so a lot of people coming in as a beginner, I can see them easily getting to like at least the 50% mark, top 50%, just from putting in like an afternoon, maybe a day's worth of effort into the game. It's just a matter of like having the eagerness to go and do that. All right. So I know we're coming close to the top of the hour here. And so if there are any final questions you all have, please ask them in the chat. We have time for maybe one or two more. Anthony here is saying his number one goal is to not be last. I think that's an achievable goal. So best of luck with that. I hope you can do it. We believe in you. While we're waiting, I guess any kind of final thoughts that you all have, any words of encouragement that you'd give to people?
Well, I guess I can go first. I would just say if this is the first time you're doing it, congratulations, because I think that's the biggest step. It is challenging and it is meant to be challenging, but at the end it's going to pay off and you're going to be able to talk about these. You're going to like it. You're going to find more areas that you want to get better at. And then, yeah, you'll go from there. But yeah, thank you for being here.
The overwhelming majority of people participating are relatively new to cybersecurity and CTF competitions, I believe, right? Does that match your statistics?
So 2/3 of people in NCL are first timers.
Yeah. So it is a competition designed for new players. At the same time, this is not a test. You shouldn't expect to aim for 100%, even if you're a very experienced professional. So don't be discouraged, but it's certainly a competition that you can enjoy participating in and learn from.
One quick thing I will add to Paul's comment: this is very much not a standardized test. expect as a big, like, don't turn your score into a letter grade. It's going to be very sad if you do that. So like a lot of beginners, I would say, the benchmark, if you're coming in for the very first time, is like 25 to 33% of the total number of points. And again, that's kind of going back toward design philosophy, right? Like easy is stuff that you can learn from the gym. Intermediate, the mediums are the ones that you're going to have to learn a little bit more from class, and hard is like truly hard. So people who have actually had like multiple years of classes in cybersecurity, they're still like getting like a 50 to a 66%, because we have to have challenges that accommodate like all different skill levels. And so it's often pretty rare that we get people who complete 100% of the NCL challenges in a season. And if we do, it's usually not more than a handful of people. So like, don't try to convert your score into a letter grade. You'll be sad if you do that. Garrett, you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I guess my last thought is what you put into it is what you get out of it very much. So, you know, this is something that most people I would say most people, maybe not, are going out of their way to participate in. A lot of people, most people, I would guess, are not doing this as part of a class. And so, you know, the goal of the competition is to learn. And so to learn, you're going to have to put in some effort. And that's up to you, how much you want to put in. But we encourage everyone to, you know, put in as much as possible, because that's how you are going to get the most out of it.
All right. Well, with that, I appreciate your time from all of you all today. Hopefully those in the chat have found that helpful. If you all still have any additional questions, please go and join the Discord. That is the best way to get some advice, whether that be from myself or from the players committee or from anyone else within the NCL community. Go ahead and join the Discord. That's the best way to get those questions answered. But with that, I hope you all have a great night, and thanks again for joining us, and good luck in the spring season. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.